And we are live. Ultra Podcast Z, episode 73, on this lovely, lovely September 10th evening. Um, as always, I am Manuel, leader of AJ Connections. And tonight, we have a special guest host. Konaro has disappeared again. I don't know where she is, but she's disappeared. But tonight, we're joined by a very special guest named Shaun. Go introduce yourself, Shaun.
Hello, I'm Shaun. Me. I don't know what else to say.
Real fast, guys. Let me know if you have any problems with our audio levels. Like I know my audio is going to be a little clearer than Sean's. It just has to do with my mic. But let me know if there's any problems with audio levels because I had some problems mixing us earlier. So go ahead and let us know. Speaking of which, chat is open, so go ahead and talk to us there. If you're on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Tonight, we're talking all titles because my buddy here, Sean's a fan of all titles. Are you not?
Yes, I am.
Yes, you are. It's funny because when I met you, for those of you who want a little crash course of how I met Shaun at Otakon Vegas. Remember that? Gosh, over 4 years ago. It's almost gonna be 5 years ago. It's gonna be 5 years. No, wait, it's gonna be 5 years ago. No, I'm sorry. I was right the first time. It's gonna be 4 years ago. This coming January. That's what I was gonna say. 4 fucking years ago, you met at Otakon Vegas, and you walked into a
The visual
VK.
cake.
Yes, that nobody was at. You remember that?
Yes.
It was
And you
just
like let me come up there.
yeah, because there was nobody there. I think you even walked in like 20 minutes late, and you're like, "Oh, is the panel still happening?" And I was like, "Yeah," and we hadn't started because it was like, what are we gonna do? Just talk, but talk to the room. I mean, but the empty room.
Yeah.
But it's funny because we didn't do any idol panels that year, but we usually do idol panels. But I don't remember pinning you as an idol fan, so I don't know if you became a fan of idols kind of after the fact.
I wasn't a big fan of it at that point. It was more I was just barely getting into it, with like Babymetal and Death Rabbits and Lady Baby stuff like Fruit Pochetti.
Oh yeah.
Stuff like that. That was when I was like starting to get interested in, like Biss and stuff, Denpa Gumink. But that was just about where I was starting. I was more just a traditional heavy metal and visual K fan.
So yeah. So that brings us to the topic of tonight's podcast and talk about all titles. We have a few topics we want to cover, but we're gonna do this a lot more chill because if anyone's ever watched our podcast, or I should say any podcast that I've been on, but the A to J podcast, we kind of have a weird rep when it comes to all titles. I feel like we go back and forth. Like there are times we do okay ones, and there are times when we do ones where the community hates us, like big time. And I wanted to do the ultimate chill one, where we don't think of long-winded rants, and there's no one that we're gonna try to attack. We're gonna kind of tear apart a couple groups, but not in a bad way, just in what the fuck kind of way. But we're not attacking anyone in the scene. We're not bringing up any names. So yeah, it'll be a really chill episode. If you ever wondered like how A to J can cover, huh? But yeah, if you ever wondered how A to J can cover all titles without like creating nonsense, then stay tuned and find out. But among some other things, if you're watching on YouTube, look in the description. I'll readjust this as we go. But I want to talk about Babymetal in general because there's a lot to talk about there. I want to talk about IRONBUNNY because there's a lot to talk about there. Also, we want to talk about the state of idols, the state of alt idols, whether alt idols in general are a relevant thing anymore. I want to talk a lot about whack. And then probably just a lot of winging it all around. So yeah, let's jump into this. Let's jump right into this. Let's start with Babymetal. You mentioned getting into Babymetal because that's like everyone's first foray, especially if you're like a Western fan into the world of all titles. Am I correct?
Yes.
So
for sure.
what drew you to Babymetal when you first discovered them?
What did I think? I was like, what the fuck is this?
um, it's funny because like Babymetal is, how do I say this? Let me pull this up because I'll just start with what I have to say, and then we'll all, and by we all, I mean me and Shaun could discuss this a bit more freely. So this, I'll move it to this side actually. This is the flyer for the latest Babymetal tour, specifically their upcoming show at the Forum. Which, fun fact, they are the first Japanese band to headline at the Forum, which is a venue in it's a venue in SoCal.
Inglewood?
Inglewood,
I think?
yeah, it's Inglewood. I can't remember the city. That's the whole issue. But yeah, it's Inglewood. Which, by the way, for those who don't know Inglewood, it's actually a pretty ghetto area. So I always love when there's huge events at the Forum, because all you have to do is go listen to some like '90s gangster rap, and you'll be like, oh, they're rapping about Inglewood, and that's a city I have to go to for this giant Forum show. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But it is pretty sketch. The area, obviously not the venue, but Babymetal is going to perform there. And before we rag on them a little, because there is some stuff I want to say, not so much negative, but just observations. It's also worth noting, besides that they're the first Japanese group to headline there since Loudness, which is a heavy metal group. This concert's actually being streamed in Japan, so it's like you never see that. Like you can go to the concerts here and see like Love Live's concert. I remember seeing Glaze like anniversary one. They're a pop rock pseudo visual K group and so on, and seeing a few others, but they're streaming this to like theaters in Japan, which is pretty an interesting move, which is very unheard of. But when you were drawn to Babymetal, Shaun, did you think that the members themselves were like important to what Babymetal is? Sorry, by the way, I have a hard time saying Babymetal. I don't know why. I just do. Too many hard syllables there for me.
By the members, do you mean the girls or the band?
Both, because I think they're both they're very important to discuss.
It was kind of different for me to see a group that was more focused on just the singers and not really showing as much of the band. I mean, obviously they do show off their band a lot, especially within time, but at first it was kind of weird to get into, and I remember reading a lot of because it was weird, because like when I first got into them, it was with that Akiba split or whatever.
Oh yeah, the Akiba of Akiba.
Yeah, and they had like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like I remember just like bam everywhere. It was weird, but like I do remember like reading on like the little like metal Jackson and shit, all that bullshit. Like people would be like arguing and shit. Oh, that's not real singing, blah blah. That's not real talent, you know. And they still do that to this day. But like, I was kind of just like whatever on it, because you don't look at like a singer of the band and you say, oh, he's not got the talent. It's just the people that are doing the instruments. So like I was just like whatever on it, but I was a little thinking like, well, why isn't the band out there as much? Why aren't they the ones being advertised as much and stuff like that? But eventually, you know, once you learn about the idol stuff, then you kind of like understand it a little better.
Well, it's also worth noting that I don't know if you remember this. Like nobody really does. It was a very brief period. Like their first year or so, like long before they're performing in the U.S., they actually would have people like pretend to play the instruments, and then like real musicians be playing them in the back. So like even the people on stage weren't real. Yeah.
No, I don't remember that at all.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure that was probably because that was before anyone was really into them. But that was like very early on. But then they started like the whole commie band thing. But See, my problem with Babymetal is that, in my opinion, it's funny you bring up the vocalist because I definitely think that even though certain members of the band do have their own fans, certain members of the band are most definitely accomplished musicians in their own right. Um,
Mm.
People don't really care too much about the band specifically, and
Mm-hmm.
especially if we're talking about just the vocalist, what I find even crazier is that you'll still find people in some metal circles, and mind you, we'll come back to like the idol fans in a second, but talking about the metal circle. In the metal circles, you'll still find people who don't know that Yui's gone, which I always find amazing. Things like that. They don't realize that, oh, there are only two people right now. Um,
Mm.
but what really struck me as odd is I ran into a lot of ads for this forum show, and I play it, but I'm afraid I'll get like not copyright, I'll get claimed, so I won't.
Mm.
Um, but in the ad that I saw, the music. Sorry, your adjustments got kind of loud there. But the music was all like instrumental, and then the you didn't hear the girl singing, and then you didn't see them at all. It was just logos and text. Now I know that it's not that common that you'll see the band on the poster, but this poster specifically is what I'm talking about. It just says Babymetal live at the forum. Now you might be like, oh,
Mm.
well, their name precedes them, but it's like I always thought what made Babymetal unique was like their image. It's like two girls like singing metal music. So I find it funny that they kind of almost distance themselves from that in their marketing these days. Yeah,
I didn't even recognize that. I didn't even realize that until you said something, and
I'm
then
pretty
I
sure I'm
was looking at
overthinking it. Yeah, go ahead.
for the shows here, and then it was the same thing. It was just the logo, and then with special guest avatar or whatever.
Yeah.
I was okay. He's right.
No, it's weird because like it's marketed in a way. Don't get me wrong. I really think that obviously a good chunk of the fan base knows what they're getting into, but when you have to fill a place at the forum, you're not just dealing with the baby metal fans or the idol fans or like the anime con attendees anymore. You have to fill an arena. You have to get the normies in.
Yeah.
Um, so I think this is like a weird strategy to almost make them like a universally accepted brand. And part of that, I think, is that I don't know. I just find the whole issue. My point to all this is, what I'm trying to get at, is I almost feel like Baby Metal is not a group. Baby Metal is not like Sue Metal and Moa Metal, whose last two members were official. By the way, fun fact: Riho from Morning Musume apparently is one of their current dancers right now. She's not like an official member. I don't think they even acknowledge her, like who she is. It's just like people just know her by sight. But she's one of the current back dancers. But my point is, like, I don't think that. I think if they were even changed, Sue and Moa, like nobody would really notice. Or let me rephrase that: the vast majority of the people who would be filling up a place at the forum wouldn't notice.
Yeah, it's true because I think a lot of the like people that come from the metal side of the fan base, I think they're more concerned with the band
Yeah.
than the vocalist.
Like I'm pretty sure that they're just go and like let's face it, like they don't know Japanese. I mean, not all the lyrics are in Japanese. I think a lot of them are actually in English, but still, like to them, it's music in Japanese. Probably they don't really care. They just want to rock out to like some metal. They probably don't know the difference. Yeah, exactly. They never know the difference. They just want to have a good time at a good show. That's all it really is. But I don't know. It's just. I'm just kind of disappointed by the baby metal marketing. Because like when this was happening, I remember this was a big topic in our very early podcast when we weren't that organized. So I wish we'd tackled it a bit more coherently. But there was this big topic about like, oh, will this bring in other Japanese similar like acts? Obviously, one can argue like Necroma or like Broken by the Scream just the other day, like last week. Yeah, some people could argue that it brings them, but it kind of doesn't. I think that those people would have came on their own because they came through a much smaller, smaller avenues, much more personal avenues. Broken
Mm-hmm.
by the Stream came through a convention, I mean to say. And then they
Mm-hmm.
just announced Bratz at ALA, so they're coming through convention as well. But I mean, when you're talking about a group like Babymetal who just like skips all that and starts like performing solo shows, like they were selling out
Yeah.
shows they were selling out shows the first time here. Not at the forum, but still they were selling out shows. Um, so there was all this talk about whether that would lead to other groups like doing similar things, and of course it didn't. Um, and part of the problem is what I'm bringing up. It's like they're kind of losing some of their uniqueness. I feel, I don't know, maybe somebody will say, "Oh, you're
Mm.
wrong, Manuel," but I feel like they're losing some of their uniqueness in their current marketing.
Yeah. But I feel like Necron Nomi Idol, I think they would have like you said, they would have came on their own
Oh yeah,
because obviously Ricky, he's American, you know. I'm
well,
sure he's thought about it before even, you know.
yeah. I have no idea who really came first. Like I'm pretty sure it's Baby Metal for the record, but I have no idea for
Oh
sure
yeah, they came first.
who came first. But I do know that I had heard of Necroma, like um, being promoted around here, and especially in SoCal. I was hearing about
Yeah.
Necroma being promoted around here before Baby Metal came around. Um, like there was always trying to get like
Really.
an inroad. Yeah, like we did a panel at like fucking Ronin Expo. No, it wasn't called Ronin back then. NinjaCon and at Anime Expo 2015. And at both of those panels, we were giving away a ton of like, and I'm sure it's super rare now. We were giving away a ton of like Necronom Idol merchandise. Um, like we gave away this Polaroid photo book, and it's funny because
Oh,
a friend of mine.
they still have that up on their site.
Oh, they still do. What the fuck? How many of those did they print? That was like 6 years old.
Or they did last time I checked.
But
It's the original members.
yeah,
Well, like not the, like the Karen is that her name? I forget.
yeah. It was after like I think the two people that joined. But yeah, we were giving away that. We were giving away like I can't remember what single was new at the time. But it was like their second single or some shit like that. And then a crap ton of buttons and some other shit. And I remember like my point is that we were doing that shit before there was a Baby Metal. Actually, it might have been after Baby Metal's kind of concert here. But either way, my time frame's a little wonky. But like you said, I'm pretty sure they would have come on their own. I'm just disappointed that like Baby Metal was not the be all end all of the new coming. I don't know. Maybe I'm just wishing too hard and overthinking all the Baby Metal marketing. But that's that. I don't know. I think that leads. Oh, but before we leave this, you mentioned all that. Metal injection, metal sucks. All that. All the arguments that go on. Those are gold.
Mhm.
I love reading those.
Dude, I just saw some today too, and I
No.
was like,
Oh my god.
they're fun.
So it's funny. I want to bring those up because that's kind of how I've been getting more and more info on the next group I want to talk about. This probably won't fit. By the way, I don't know if you see what I'm doing for Twitch, but
I don't.
I have Hanako-san holding a paper, and then oh,
It's cute.
he's holding a paper, and then I'm putting the topic on there. Uh,
Oh, that's badass.
Slimliner robot or Slimline robot. Sorry, Slimline robot. Baby Metal is a dead project. I agree. I think it's a dead project that people are just milking the last bit of money out of. But I also let me rephrase that. I don't think it. I think artistically it's a dead project. I think if you're an Idol fan, it's a dead project. But commercially, I don't think it's dead at all.
No, no.
That's the difference. Um, depends on how you want to tackle this. Also, I didn't mention this before. I'll mention this now before I change subjects. If you're watching this episode for the first time, Ultra Podcast Z, I always wear this, or you can just pretend that I'm like doing an it thing because it just released last week. I was gonna make that joke at the opening, yeah, and I was gonna make that joke at the opening, and I forgot it. But so I want to make it now while we finish this topic. But we'll come back to Baby Metal a bit more later on, because I want to talk a bit more about like alt idols in general, and Babymetal is huge in that. I don't know why I said this already. I don't know why I have a huge problem saying Babymetal. Yeah, it's a merch selling machine. Slime Liner Robot mentioned that it's a merch selling machine. I agree. Um, like I said, like it's not about the art. It's not about the musician, or not about the performers. Obviously, they get the vocalists and the musicians. Um, it's about selling merch. It's about selling tickets. It's about selling out the forum, which I don't think that they'll do. Maybe I'll eat my hat later on if they do sell at the forum. I wanted to mention that I think that marketing has to do part of the fact that I think part of that has to do with the fact that they're not going to sell at the forum, which is why I'm seeing all that crazy marketing. Um, I mean, besides like the venue itself, I would never go because I don't like arena shows. I just feel like they're not fun to me. I feel.
I've never seen Babymetal because last time they came to Las Vegas was when it was their first American tour, and they were opening for Lady Gaga.
Oh, I forgot about that. I actually forgot about that little
so they had. I was like, no, I ain't going to that.
No, a friend of mine did go to that. I forgot about that. No, when I went, they did like 2 shows. They did one in LA, one in New York. Sorry, I have Iron Bunny up there. Bruce was talking about Babymetal, but we did 2 shows. They did 2 shows or 3 shows, and I went to the one in LA, and I bought a ticket. I bought 2 tickets randomly, and I guess they sold out within like minutes. But like when I bought them, I didn't think they were, so I bought them really casually. I didn't do anything special. I didn't open 10 browsers or do all that nonsense. Oh, is that true? Comic Band got replaced by Americans. Now it's funny that I don't know if that's true, Slime Liner Robot, but I've always thought that was weird that they brought Japanese musicians like the first couple tours or whatever. Like if nobody really cares about them, why not just bring some hired guns once they land wherever, be it here, be it in Europe, and maybe even still like bring some like. And it's kind of funny because I'm gonna bring this up as the next topic in a second, but like maybe get some like big name musicians, get like fucking Jeff Pilson on bass. I can't think of people off the top of my head right now. Like Craig Goldie on guitar or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like bring in some like some big names in there if you're gonna do that. I'm sure they're not. They're going like the Marilyn Manson route.
I know you would like Rudy Sarzo on there.
I know Rudy Sarzo. That actually be an amazing one because he actually does a lot of Japanese stuff in general too. But let's move on to Iron Bunny real fast. So speaking of, I think it was a Metal Injection article that I read for starters. But speaking of,
wow, they're covering them. Wow.
Yeah, like honestly,
I haven't seen that shit. I don't follow that page anymore, so.
Baby tarts are in uproar. Iron Bunny is a group that I feel is getting so much attention. Oh, let me put them up. I have a picture of them actually. It's getting so much attention that I feel is kind of undeserved. Because they're relatively. Oh shit! I moved our background. Hold on. Ah, fuck. Okay, there it goes. I moved the background. Okay, I gotta fix this. Hold on. Okay, there it goes. Sorry about that. But Iron Bunny, first of all, let me get it out of the way. Yes, thank you, Slime Liner Robot. They are the new worst thing. So let me get this out of the way without even going any further. Now, when I saw them, my first thought is this is fucking Death Rabbits because it's 3 girls and the robot guy. Now, fun fact, one of our people, Kaz, like from A to J Connections, went to Japan like in January. And she saw them, so apparently they've been around for a bit. I don't know much about. I've only heard of them now, and I haven't. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't delve too deep. So like, Shaun was telling me earlier they've done covers, so I didn't know that.
Yeah, they've done like because that's how I found them. One of the Facebook Idol pages. I think it was Pure Heart Idol or something.
Oh.
They their covers. And I shared all these covers thinking, oh shit, this is going to be awesome. I shared all these covers, they got like Number of the Beast and stuff. And then I go to watch them later, and it's literally like just the guitar. Like you can't really hear anything else, like no bass, no drums. And then the girls are all singing at the same time. So it's like, this is really disappointing.
I mean, that sounds disappointing.
So like I was turned off by them. Like I was like completely like turned off. Like But then a few days ago, their new album, their album came out. I don't know how many albums they've had, but their album came out, and I checked it out, and it was different from what I expected because of those covers. Those covers were pretty terrible, but the album, it's decent, I guess.
I can't remember the name of the song. I can't remember the name of the song off the top of my head, but they have a new MV out that just came out. I want to say a couple weeks ago, and that song was okay. It's funny because I mentioned Death Rabbits earlier. They don't sound like Death Rabbits. They just
they
look
sound
like
more
that.
traditional.
What's annoying about that though is they look like Death Rabbits, and they're called Iron Bunny. So it's annoying. I'm like, dude, like that's everyone. Okay, I'll admit, it's not going to be everyone's first thought because you have to be an Idol fan to even know who Dusty Rabbits is. But if you knew who they are, that was like everyone's first thought when you see this picture and hear their name. It's like, what the fuck is this? But
well, like especially because of the robot, like
yeah. I'm like, what the fuck is this? I mean, you gotta be kidding me. Slimeline Robot in the chat mentions that he thinks it's that he feels or he knows or whatever that it's this dude's ego project, the guitarist. Not gonna lie, because it's funny you mentioned that. I kind of got whether that's true or not. That was what stood out to me most in the video. Like I wasn't expecting to see so many shots of like this guy like shredding, like not necessarily good or bad, but I wasn't expecting it to be so much. Like it felt like if you ever watch an old Yngwie Malmsteen live, where even though they have like a really good guy singing vocals or whatever, it'll still be like 45% of Yngwie shots. That's what I felt like watching that video, because they would show the girls, but half the time you couldn't like. I think I got a good impression of the girls at all. It was kind of just like moving around really fast. But the guitarist's name, who's actually I don't even know his name. I know some of the girls' names because they were in the comments. He just it just looked like, I'm like, why are we seeing so much of him? Also, if you read the comments in that video, which doesn't have a ton of views, I thought it would. I think they're trying really hard to go viral. They must have some good marketing team in the U.S. But it's not really working, I feel. Also because we'll get to that later, but I think the whole baby metal fad has kind of like run its course, so I don't think you really have like a whole lot of room for a new baby metal, because that's what everyone is calling them, like the new baby metal. Everyone's all like, oh, is there room for them in baby metal?
My thing is to be quite honestly, musically, unless if you're talking about, I don't know, like Death Rabbits, I like them, but like I like them like I mentioned before, like when I was first getting into Idol music and stuff, I liked them. But like listening to them now, I'm just kind of like, this is kind of cheesy.
Yeah.
but like, I'll be quite honest, I do prefer Iron Bunny's musical sound over Death Rabbits, though I will admit, like I don't know if it was the most recent Death Rabbits song music video, but they changed their sound quite a bit.
Yeah.
And they sound like you know, like the other all idol band or groups going around at the moment, you know. So I kind of like that one. You know, they kind of switched their sound. It sounds better, so I don't know, maybe they're changed. They're also getting older. I don't really like the little girl vocals, you know. I'm not a big fan of that, you know.
See, I'm not either. I was actually never the biggest fan of baby. I don't know why I can't say that word. I was never a huge fan of baby metal when they were first starting, for that reason. Like some of the more kawaii vocals. I don't really get that as much with Iron Bunny, though. Funny enough, even though that's referenced a ton in the comments. I
think I honestly, when I hear the vocals for Iron Bunny, I don't know, like this. Maybe there. I think they kind of sound like Mina from Osaka Shunto. I don't know, it's a long name, I forgot.
Oh, I know what you're talking about though. Yeah,
And
that's,
that's a good thing. That's a good thing in my opinion, because I honestly, in my opinion, I think she has some of the best vocals in the whole genre. But
it's funny because like I they clearly are kind of going for the same baby metal aesthetic, and they're also trying to ride
mm-hmm.
that wave. And from what I understand, from what Kaz told me, um, they are marketed something like Idols in Japan, or probably more the way Death Rabbits is because they have a guy there too. Um, so, but they don't sound like the other alt idol groups, in my opinion. I don't know if that's good or bad. Like you said, their album
Now
it isn't bad.
it's like they're trying to appeal to the older metalheads. Like
Soulless is
that's the
overproduced.
like it sounds like they're trying to like do the older traditional style of metal, rather than trying to do something like metalcore or hardcore like a lot of the all idol groups do.
Oh man, I agree. But yeah, Slime River says, soulless and overproduced. I do feel that way as well. We didn't mention earlier. We kind of hinted at it. I didn't know this until I was reading some of the comments on the video. Because like I'll admit I didn't own the albums. I didn't read the liner notes or whatever. But I just heard a bunch of it
Mm.
online. I actually didn't download it. I just heard it online. Just
I
FYI.
just heard it through Allah, so I
Yeah, no.
technically.
Yeah, I just want to point that out. Like, I just heard it online because I'm not. I mean, anyway, whatever. Don't support piracy. But anyways, I was just at Iron Bunny. I didn't realize this. They have all I remember right now is off the top of my head. They have George Lynch and Doug Aldrich and I think a few other named musicians. Oh man. Oh my god. I'll come back to that Slime Liner Bunny because I want to mention that in our big overall alt idol thing. Slime Liner Bunny had a pretty interesting thing about the fans that you get in the U.S. Or in the West, I should say. But we'll come back to that. But but yeah, so Doug Aldrich, of course, he played for Dio and Whitesnake, and probably other bands I don't know.
Lion.
Huh?
Lion.
Oh, Lion, I didn't know that. And then of course,
Doug Aldridge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I met him. He's pretty cool.
Yeah, I met him. A while ago when he was playing for Whitesnake. Funny enough, but also like, and then of course for those who don't know, George Lynch, he was in Dawkins a long time ago. It's not like anytime recently. And then he's more famous, of course, for Lynch Mob and his own band. I saw Lynch Mob live. I didn't meet them, but I saw them live. I can't remember.
I saw Dawkins last year, but not with him. And
Exactly.
God, they're terrible.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. The only Dawkins song I know anyway is "Dream Warriors." The one from Nightmare on Elm Street 3. So
That's the best one.
yeah,
Bro.
so that's where I stand. I'm just gonna leave it there.
But Don, he can't sing no more, bro.
Oh yeah. But so Iron Bunny, I don't know. I don't know if we're gonna see more of Iron Bunny. I don't know. But then again, I almost like. I'm probably gonna have to eat my own words with this one too because I see a lot of my friends sharing this, and I don't mean my idol friends. I mean both normies, like as in like maybe some of my friends I go to see like fucking like a normal rock or metal show with, and then I'll see some of my anime friends who aren't into idols, they're just into like anime in general, so they'll share it too. So maybe they'll catch on, maybe they won't. Apparently, what I find funny about their makeup is you kind of see it there in the picture. Is like two of the girls are like relatively old, I think they're 18 or 19, and then one of the other girls is like fucking 15. I'm like, why do they have like the baby in the group and like the one baby? I don't know. I'm just always a little. I'm always a little weird about when groups try to so clearly ride the baby metal hype train. But you know what? Let's move this to one of our bigger topics. I think that we'll come back to them because they're gonna come up in our big one. Wait. This won't fit. State of. I meant to write two of these and I didn't. Give me 1 second because I don't know how to multitask. While I get this sorted out. But I want to talk about the states of alt idols and like the relevancy, some of the shit that's been going around in terms of like some of the groups. it's funny because I had a big talk about this with a friend of mine earlier today. Not with Shaun though, so this will all be fresh to him.
Hmm.
States of all titles. There we go. Now, for those of you who've ever watched our older alt idol podcast, we've always I think we pretty much always have done it with like the people from Homicidals, and this is always our opening topic. And originally I wrote it as the opening topic of this one, but I wanted to bring up the Babymetal and IRONBUNNY things first because I think this is it's a big topic to talk about. So I'll just dive into this. How do you think alt idols? How do you think the relevancy of alt idols is around the world right now, Shaun?
To be honest, this year a lot it feels like everything's like just falling apart.
So
I feel like disbanding. A lot of people are graduating. I just they don't like. I feel like it's falling. I mean, sure you get some new albums and stuff, and I've had a few albums this year that I thought were really good, but then you also like everyone's like it seems like everyone's like graduating or disbanding. But that's always a thing with idol. Like everything's like if you get into like all idol, it's like or idol in general. Like there's always going to be graduations, disbandments, and stuff. That's anything.
it's funny you kind of hit that on the head like I was going to talk about too. Like obviously, there's always like you said, it's always going to be graduation. It's always going to be that kind of thing. But there've been some big ones, and they're like, how do I say this? Some of the ones that replaced them don't feel as big as the ones that came before them. And also, yes, this happens every year. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm actually the first person, like, just to address with so you don't think I'm going there. Every year, I always go into like because every year other people say it, and this isn't why I'm bringing it up. Every year other people are like, "Oh, this is the end. So and so's breaking up," but like there's reasons I feel it's different. Now, we mentioned how so many groups have been coming to the US recently. Within the past year alone gosh, they all escape me now. But Broken by the Scream was recent. Bratz is coming up. Help me out here. Who else is coming? Obviously Babymetal's coming.
Candy Syrup came.
Candy Syrup came. So there've been a lot.
Lady Baby.
Lady Baby. Obviously Deathless Lolita. I'm sure there's several.
Idol.
Oh yes.
Hanako Soto Mute.
Hanako-san, who's right there in our, who's holding up our fucking topic. Or I kind of forgot her. I'm looking right at her. So yeah, but I've always said this before too. Especially when it comes to like Asian music markets, like I always feel like expanding overseas. Like don't get me wrong, to some, I know for a fact that the Necroma things make some money because like not Ricky but Derek has gone on record to say like, oh, we actually like we made a pretty good haul this year or this tour, and that's good. We'll go to the next one. But a lot of so my point is like, even though you hear stories about a lot of these not paying off, and don't get me wrong, a lot of them don't. Some of these are successful, but my point to bring this up is that a lot of times when you start seeing groups like become more popular in the West, I always feel like it's almost in their death throes. You mentioned Candy Syrup. Candy Syrup actually broke up before they even got to the U.S. The U.S. was like this weird after breakup show. The reason I bring this up is like there's some big things like the shit that went down with Biss and Whack. The shit that went down with Coolawee earlier in the year, or was it late last year?
For payroll?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was last year, I think.
So yeah, there's been a lot of things in general. Also, some of the things going down with Babymetal. The fact that Babymetal is not like is not really leading the alt idol flag. And sure, some people might argue they never did, but let's be real. They like to any Western fan.
They're responsible for getting it
exactly. I honestly
out in the world.
Yeah, I honestly like maybe Slimeline Robots different, but I've honestly never met an alt idol fan who did not jump in to Babymetal, or let me rephrase that, who became a fan during this recent time period, who did not jump into Babymetal. Because obviously, if you were around before Babymetal, then obviously that's not why you did it. But you mentioned Babymetal. Tons of other people mentioned Babymetal. Maniac from Homicidals mentioned Babymetal, and the list goes on and on and on. Perhaps you, and then even some other people. Like I remember when we had, I think it was Carrie. When we had Carrie on from Homicidals. She mentioned, I think it was her. It was a Paper Maiden. One of them mentioned that they were fans of like Hello Project and so on, but then they heard Babymetal, and then so on, so on. So even then, it's like it's still a gateway.
It's like you get these two halves. You get these people that go into this subgenre through being idol fans, traditional idol fans, and then you get these people that come into the genre through being metal fans or punk fans. Like you have that like split. Like it's like it's I don't know. It seems rare to find people that are like both.
It's funny because sorry, I'll come back to the second. But Slimeline and Robot, these Slimeline Robots, says you speak to a lot of plebs and noobs, plebs and noobs. Sorry, it's funny. It's not so much I think that they're plebs and noobs per se. If you start speaking to the older crowd, because I think it's definitely an age difference. I'm pretty damn old, and I've been to idols for a very long. I'm not like 50. I'm not even 40, but I'm just saying that I've been around like the idol scene for a while, so it's hard to find people like who are young who didn't get through Babymetal. It's just how it is. Also, I had a counterpoint to that. I forgot what it was. Anyways, that's it. I just find that funny that he said that. I think it's an age thing, but what I sorry, that really threw me for a loop. I don't know why I lost me to thought there. What I was trying to bring around myself to eventually getting to, and I lost me to thoughts. I'll just jump to it. Is that I'm a huge fan of Visual K, and I like to talk about Visual K a lot.
Yeah.
Now, I don't care what anyone says. Visual K is a crazy dying genre. You wouldn't know that in the U.S. because, like, when these bands come to the U.S., they'll come here and always to like a convention. They hardly ever play solo, but they'll come to a convention and there'll be a ton of people there.
Actually, I just want to say this, like, because like recently when Broken Brightest Stream came, Sound B HD came as well, and
did anyone go to that
show? Like, it seems like half of the crowd left as soon as Broken by the Scream finished. I notice this happens a lot when you have an idol band opening in America and then you have like a regular band or something playing afterwards. Like this happened at East Meets West too with Abigail Williams. Like half of the crowd left as soon as Broken by the Scream finished. And then at the end of the thing, when they did the autographs and stuff, like no one went to Sound B. No one, rarely, like me and my girlfriend, we went up to take pictures with Daisuke and he was just fucking, they were just chilling there. Like there was no one there. Like it's kind of sad because like, they're good musicians and stuff like that. Especially like, and like people like Daisuke, like, like he has like a long history in the Visual K scene, but like everyone like, it's, you say it's dying, but like, at least that was the first Visual K show I've been to. So like, I can't really speak for much, but it seemed like, like it didn't seem like it was very popular, at least at the place I went to.
Now, I'll say this. Once again, I said at the top of the show, I don't want to be super negative, so I won't say anything too mean. And we have interviewed Sound BHD in the past, but they were never popular. They were never going to be like, filling up a room or like, even here.
Is that?
Yeah, they just never were. They're one of those bands. Like they'll have a few fans. Like you mentioned, Daisuke has a really illustrious career.
I'm not gonna lie, that's why I even like there, honestly.
But so yeah. But my point to bringing that up is that unless they're Broken by the Scream, and there's a few others who are riding the wave of just like somehow getting con appearances, even though nobody really cares about them. No offense. I'm just calling it as it is, not saying any personal opinions at all, because I've seen it too. I've been to a Sound BHD concert, um, and but uh, my point to this being is that back home, like some of these groups, like a better example is like Acme. We saw them live recently in a standalone show in Long Beach, and it's kind of full. And they played Akon a week before that, or a couple days before that,
Yeah.
and that was full as well. But back home, they'll play much smaller venues. Or other VK groups that come here will play much smaller venues, and I always feel like there's nobody who will argue that VK is not like a dying genre. Now, obviously, VK's been around a lot longer as its own genre, especially like what's considered like modern VK has been around for like almost 15, 20 years. At least, like, you know, the modern kind of VK, not the old school X Japan bullshit. Not that it's bullshit, I love it, but I'm just calling it bullshit.
Bullshit, huh?
Bullshit. No, I actually love it. I'm just calling it that. Anyway, my point is, to me, I feel like alt idols are kind of in that middle period where I feel like the genre itself is definitely, there was a fad. That's actually the biggest part I want to get at. I feel, now anyone could disagree, but I feel there was a fad, even in Japan, not just here, but there was a fad. A lot of groups jumped onto it. Like, do you remember when Star Marie, they were a very cutesy idol group, when they went alt idol, when like, you know, Wasta would try the alt idol song, when other big name, when Paspo broken up, of course, when Paspo tried the alt idol song, like a lot of groups would like dip into alt idol here and there, just when it became big. And I just feel it was a fad that's kind of run its course. It'll always be there.
Well, I think any genre will always be there. It will just, you know, it dies down like you're saying, like with Visual K, like it just dies down and it like kind of goes in the underground, like because like there's still like groups that do like even like glam and
yeah, of course,
new metal, you know, like there's still like an underground market for it, but like it fads all like die down, you know.
But so many good points flying around in Robot. So you talking about Daisuke earlier. Long history. Don't be cute Japanese chicks who can scream. That's just the way it is. That's true. But I don't know. Like, don't get me wrong. For the record, I want to say, even though I'm not the biggest fan of a lot of these groups, honestly, most of that has to do with just time. I'm very weird. Like, I'm sure you see my post, Shaun. Like, my music tastes are all over the place personally, like on my day-to-day life. I listen to a lot of jazz. That's actually what I listen to a lot of my free time. And it's always like, what the fuck? And people get surprised when they hear me at home. I'm just playing. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't mean like elevator music, but like, you know, a lot of jazz fusion. So I listen to a lot of jazz, and it's like just that's in place here a lot of times. So a lot of it's because but I do listen to a lot of it, and I do like a lot of it. I feel that there's like there's kind of gimmicks that Babymetal is a very good example. I don't want to keep coming back to them, but IRONBUNNY as well. When you build a lot of things on gimmicks, because Babymetal became really popular because of you know, Gimme Chocolate, and the fact that you had you know, three, like, especially like you had like three girls, like you were singing kind of cutesy vocals and cutesy lyrics over like pretty straightforward metal music. It was unusual. It was different. And then with IRONBUNNY, even though it's not different, people see it and they might be familiar with other type of groups and like, oh, this looks unique. You know, the common writer guitarist looks unique, and jump onto it. Now earlier Slimeline Robot mentioned the dad fan, the metal dad fan. And it's funny he mentioned that because it's funny he mentioned that because if you ever watch our past podcast, Konaru, for all titles, Konaru is huge on talking about the metal dad fan. Excuse me, sorry, I'm like, that was a really nasty cough, sorry. But she was talking about the metal dad fan, because there's quite a few of them in the scene, and some of them are a little creepy. No, don't get me wrong. A lot of them aren't. A lot of them aren't. I like anything, like any kind of fandom of anything. I always feel that there's a pretty vast majority that are just in it for the fandom, and there's always that handful. I don't want to say a few because I honestly I feel it's always more than a few, but there's always that handful who have to like represent the rest of them by just being weird, and
Yeah.
there are quite a few of those I fear, especially in the alt idol scene, who are. Um, I forgot the exact wording. I might have already scrolled past it, but there was something about like oh, with the Asian fetish, and they get some really creepy comments. If you hit up some of the, if you hit up some of like the metal injection, like the metal sucks. If you hit up the Iron Bunny videos or the baby metal videos, you'll find a lot of creepy comments. But that's anything I feel.
Yeah.
You'll find those if you hit up like K-pop videos. Don't get me started on K-pop. I should have brought that up. Oh, by the way, funny thing you mentioned. Funny thing I mentioned that. Like you mentioned it. When I was scrolling through the Iron Bunny video, there were so many people who were comparing it to K-pop, and
K-pop,
and I
yeah.
was so annoyed. I was getting so fucking annoyed. Like I'm like, okay, the baby metal comparison annoyed me because it's not really there, but the fucking K-pop thing is not there at all. Why are you comparing it? Besides that, that's the only Asian thing you know. Um,
Yeah, my coworkers always do that because like I'll be like blasting like some idol music and shit on my at the car speakers at work, and they'll be like, "Where are you listening to? K-pop?" And I'm like,
oh my god. So, um, oh my god.
"You know what K stands for?"
No, and then the people were like, "Oh, where's this film?" Like, because in that video, there's a homeless like black guy in the video, and it's actually a pretty big character in the video, like for whatever reason. But somebody's like, "Hey, like, how many homeless black guys do you ever see in South Korea?" And I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about? This is Japan." I'm like, there's so many things wrong with that statement. I'm not going to go there.
Osaka.
But anyway, I'm so glad you're in the chat, Slimeline Robot. Now, I can't really read all the things he's saying. Is if you're watching this on YouTube, go to twitch.tv/AJ Plays, and you can watch the archive. The chat will be archived there. But he mentioned something that I completely forgot about: the term Kawaii metal. I hate that term
Oh,
because
I hate it. I was talking about that with my friend earlier. He was like, because he sent me this video of this YouTuber who's like, "Oh, it was a joke video. It was a joke video," and he was like, "Oh, this ain't real metal." Blah 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 blah. And then he was like going through, and he was looking at the Wikipedia, and it brought up Kawaii metal, and I was like, because the thing that threw me off was okay. He's saying like if you look at the Wikipedia page for Kawaii metal, it'll say baby metal, lady baby, and dazzle vision. Dazzle visions where I'm just like,
I don't get it. Now,
what? How? Like, okay, yes, I don't like the term kawaii metal because obviously that's just retarded. But come on, like you could compare baby metal and lady baby because they're kind of in the same like little umbrella, but dazzle vision's a completely different thing. Like that's like post-hardcore metalcore.
no,
Like
okay, I'm about to piss off a lot
you're
of
just
people.
putting them there because the singer's cute.
Yeah, but I'm about to piss. Yeah. Wikipedia doesn't make it real. Yeah, it's written by confused foreigners. But I'm about to piss off a lot of people,
Yes.
and it's not something I did. So, a few months ago, actually, it's about a year ago now. Because for those who don't know, like AJ Connections, we have a lot of people everywhere. I've been to Taiwan. We have people in Taiwan, and we have like somewhat of a presence in Taiwan. It's a small country, and there's a big scene for a lot of things in general, like Japanese things. So it's a small
Shit,
scene, and
don't tell my girlfriend that.
so we all know a lot of the same people. We all know a lot of the same people. Anyway, um, I don't know where to begin with this. So I'll just start with it. So TLDR, a friend of mine in the music scene, contacted me because one of her friends wrote for a magazine whose I can't remember which one. It's a huge magazine. I wish I remembered it. It was one of the big ones. I'll look it up later. I'll put a link in YouTube for sure. But I can't remember the name off the top of my head. He wrote for a magazine, and he was writing an article about Kawaii metal. And I was like, what the fuck? But he wanted to interview me about like what I thought about it because I've just because I cover a lot of it through ADG Connections. Now, mind you, it wasn't just an interview with me. He was interviewing a lot of people. He interviewed Ladybeard. He interviewed some of the people whose names escape me. But he wanted to interview me, and I'll never forget this because he sent me a huge list of questions, huge list, like 30 questions, something like that. It was huge, and I was barely included. I was included pretty well in the article, but like it didn't need 30 questions. But this guy clearly had no idea, like he fucking wrote that Wikipedia page for all I know, because he didn't know shit about and the first question was like, oh, and the whole thing was like, oh, what do you feel about Kawaii metal? What's your favorite Kawaii metal band? How blah blah Kawaii 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 Kawaii. And the first time I answered, it was like, that's not really a real term. It's kind of like the only people who ever really used that themselves was Lady Baby. And some people have lashed out onto other ones, but basically he was inferring that groups like Necronom Idol, Hanako-san, Broken by the Scream. He actually mentioned Broken by the Scream. Passcode. He mentioned Passcode as well, and that these were all Kawaii metal. And I was like, no. And my very first reply, I ignored his question, whatever the fuck it was, and I had a whole thing about what Kawaii metal is, quote unquote, and what it isn't, as in, it's not really a thing. Please don't use it in your article. And I kept repeating it. I was like, oh, by the way, you asked it like this. If it were me, I would say alt idol. I would say this. I would say, EDM influence this. I would say dark wave this, and so on.
Yeah.
I wouldn't keep using this really bad umbrella term, Kawaii metal. And so I wrote pages and pages back to him, and I sent it to him. And of course, the article comes out, and he basically, I think my quote in there, one of my quotes, he quote me a couple times. One of my quotes was like, he did put me as kind of as if I was, this guy says Kawaii metal isn't like, the big genre, but I think it is. And he kept going, he just brought me up and blew me off, and then never mentioned Kawaii. They just kept going on about like Death Rabbits and like, Passcode and so on. All the groups that, you would never call Kawaii, well, maybe Death Rabbits. I don't really care about Death Rabbits, but like Passcode. He said Passcode, and I was like,
yeah,
I was getting upset, and he was mentioning Yukue Shiretsu. I hate saying their name. Not to clear loose ends. Yeah, not to clear loose ends. He was mentioning them. He was mentioning I think
Zenbu Kimi no Seira.
Yeah, and so on. So I'm sorry to with this. There's only one. Oh my god. If I told Hanako she was Kawaii metal, she'd fucking stab me. Thank you. I would love to think Hanako-san would do that. If I ever have a chance to talk to her, I want to tell her about that interview that I had in the article. I wish I knew what publication it was in. Like I said, definitely I'll find it and I'll put it in YouTube. So even if you're watching this live, Slimeline Robot, check out the on YouTube tomorrow and just find the link in there. Or hit me up on wherever the fuck, on Twitter or whatever, and I'll find it at some point tonight. But yeah, I was like, what the fuck? And I was so upset because I was like, he didn't listen to me at all. And I forgot, like, he quoted me a couple other times, and it sounded wrong. He quoted me saying he basically quoted me in ways, and I guess this is like the plight of anyone doing an interview like this. He quoted me in a way that just sounded like he was supporting what he was saying, even though I wasn't. And I was like, God damn it! He didn't misquote me. I'll give him that. There was some degree of journalistic integrity. They didn't misquote me, but I do feel that kind of does go hand in hand with the state of alt idols, especially in the West. Now, this writer, there's a lot of these, by the way, in Taiwan. He was an expat American in Taiwan, writing for the Taiwanese branch of a big U.S. magazine, and that article was published in several sister publications. You know how that kind of shit goes. It's like you write an article for one magazine and it gets put like in 8 others. That's the way like modern publishing is. So yeah, so that interview did get placed around, and but yeah, it was just really upsetting. I was just like, I couldn't believe it, and I couldn't believe it, and I was just so upset. And I think I still have, because I emailed them to him, so I'm pretty sure I still have my answers. I should dig those up like for a future podcast. It's like I find specifically what he said and my answers, trying to convince him to not like say what he's saying, but whatever. Faking fake media at me. No, he basically did. I don't know. Like he got me good. I don't want to badmouth him too much because he was nice, and he was definitely he did not get into Babymetal. I think he got in through Deadlift Alita because I'm pretty sure that's what was around for him. It was like long after Baby Baby because this is recent. This is like the last year only. So I think he had just discovered this crazy new music genre and did like a few minutes research and decided to interview people and write an article for his whatever fuck magazine he had. So yeah, that's upsetting. I don't know. Sorry, that was just I just had to get on the Kawaii metal rant. I just can't believe it. Don't. So I'm glad you agree with that though, because it's something I don't really bring up often because I never think about it.
And like I mentioned I was talking about that with my friend, and then he like was telling me about all this stuff. He was like, "Well, genres are subjective. What do you think of that?" And then just sitting there thinking in my head about pirate metal and like to call that a genre. He's like wild, and I'm like, okay.
I always find it hard going into genre. I think we talked about this in our VK panel that you might have like heard this part of. I kind of hate doing the genre battle.
Yeah, me too.
Real fast, I like how Shinari woke up in cold sweats after hearing you guys pronounce Sudetsure. It's funny because that's actually a running gag with A to J Connections going back when they first debuted, when our first like old ass podcast like 4 years ago. We used to have a member named Heidi who was on the podcast all the time back then, and she was the only one who was able. Oh, what? I got like echoes out of nowhere. But she was the only one who was able to pronounce the name with no fuss. But yeah, that was funny. That was a running gag, and it still is apparently. I can't say it.
It's a long name, you know.
Yeah, Yukue Shiretsu.
Yukue Shire.
So there you go. That was me actually trying. I don't have it written in front of me either, so I'm trying off the top of my head.
Me neither.
Anyway. What the hell? No, I'm
just that
on your side.
group.
That group. Back then we just called them Yukue because, like, obviously Sudetsure is the real regular short in that, but that was the part we had problems with, so we can't say it. I'm echoing like crazy on your side now. But, okay, it's done. No, it's not. Well, I'll keep going. Let's just hope that it stops on its own.
What's going on?
I'm echoing on your side. I don't know why.
You are?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Anyway, we'll just keep going because it comes and goes. Hopefully, it goes more than it comes. But anyway, let's get back to the conversation. So Kawaii metal. Sorry, that wasn't my original point. That was a huge aside that I just kind of got locked into. Let me go back up and try to figure out where I was going with my whole state of all titles. Oh yeah, the whole in his final death throes. I don't think it's in its final death throes. I don't know why I said that there, but it's definitely, I feel, moving towards. And like I said, this might be a good thing. It's moving back towards more underground, less of a mainstream thing. Oh yeah, do you have headphones? Because I think I think you need headphones out of nowhere. Like, you didn't need them this whole time. It's fine.
I don't know why.
Yeah. Like,
let me check settings.
But anyways, let's keep going.
Cheap ass headphones, but they're in my car. Waiting.
Well, anyway, like, it kind of left for now. Hopefully, it doesn't come back. Anyway, you get headphones next time. No.
I'll buy some.
But so yeah, so moving back to State of All Titles, I feel it's kind of towards that, which like I said, might be a good thing, because I think a lot of these Metal Dad fans kind of did muddy up the waters in ways pretty bad. That writer was not a Metal Dad, but that writer did not help anything either, and he's only serving to spread misinformation. I'm sure that article got a ton of clicks. because once again that page had like a couple 100,000 likes, the Taiwanese page of that magazine. So it must have saw a lot of eyes that just fucking think everything's kawaii metal now. I don't know.
Maybe it'll just let's stop calling it all idol.
It's funny because when I first started getting into this idol scene, I remember thinking like, what did you call this stuff? And I remember the term that I used. Oh my god, dude! Hold on. Let me try to fix you. Sorry, like the echo is really bothering me now. Let me fix you. Sorry guys, if you're watching live, let me try to like fix it real fast.
You want me to go grab the headphones?
Perhaps. I think you should go grab them, and I'll just like wing it for the next like 5-10 minutes, however long it takes you.
I mean, you're doing most of the talking anyway.
No, you actually did a good amount of talking. I mean, I ranted about Kawaii metal for like 10-20 minutes.
I'll be back.
All right. So anyway, he's getting some headphones. Oh, I'm still echoing even though he's gone. I didn't anticipate that. But get this, guys. I can mute him. There we go. Now I'm not echoing because he's not there. So anyway, there you go. He's getting headphones. I muted him because I don't echo anymore. So it definitely was him because now that he's muted, I can now you get my nice crystal clear audio. But no. I don't know if you agree, Metal Slime Line. I want to call you Metal Slimer. I don't know why. Like Metal Slime. I think I have a friend named that, like on Twitch, named after like the Metal Slime from Dragon Quest. But I don't know if you agree. But like I said, I think we're definitely past the fad phase. I don't know if you recall all those groups that were jumping into the alt idol thing. But I remember my point. Back before alt idols became a term everyone used, I remember I was struggling with what to call it. And this was the I mentioned earlier we do a lot of panels on idols. I mentioned how we do a lot of panels on idols, and one of our panels is Idol 101, which is like our basic idol panel. And when this was all becoming clearly a new thing in the scene to discuss, I was like, what do you call groups like this? And I remember the term that I came up with, quote unquote, like I don't know if I actually did or not, was like non-standard idols. And that's what I was calling idols for a very long time. Like, oh, they're non-standard idols. Let me unmute Shaun. But I was calling them non-standard idols. And then finally, I think at some point, somebody, I think it was probably someone in the audience too, corrected me like, oh, I think you would call them alt idols, alternative idols. And I like that term a lot better, and I like that term. If anyone's a fan of Homicidals, his constant creating of genres like kind of grates on my nerves, and I make fun of him all the time he's on. Are they in? Are they in?
Hello?
There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, and you're not echoing anymore because you have headphones in. No, it's funny because like it wasn't an issue until it was. There we go. I don't know why. Like there was the occasional echo. I think, like I said, I think maybe had internet issues that were delaying us because it seemed like it was in real time for a bit. But no, I was just mentioning. I don't know if you heard me because I was telling that earlier. Was that I was debating for like months, like back in the day, maybe about a year, about what to call alt idols when they were like kind of becoming new, and I was calling them non-standard for the longest time. And I think we even used that term in some of our old podcasts. But then the term alt idol became a lot more popular. And also, I should briefly mention that kawaii metal was being thrown around a lot back in those days, and I was never gonna use that term, like never ever. But anyway, I don't know. I think we've covered that very well. Also, before we leave this topic, actually, I think it's important to mention the states of idols in general. Because
I don't know nothing about that.
Yeah, but it's obviously all tied in. Obviously, the AKB48s of the world are like as big as ever, kinda. Yeah. Because like, there's a bit of a shift again for those who are paying attention. Like the anime idols, the weird band idols, like the band idol that we haven't seen since like the late '80s, like the Bang Dreams and the Poppin' Parties of the world are becoming a lot more popular. So we're definitely experiencing a shift. I think definitely more the anime idol style, and especially the band idol style, is a lot more the in thing right now. Um, Perhaps Brats came around a little too early, because I think if they came out now and did a slightly popular sound, then maybe even not even that poppy, but came around now, they've been a bit more accepted. Um, that's what I feel. But that's that on that. We have a couple more topics. We'll move into that. I want to read some of these things in chat. In Japan, oh yeah, Chica Idol. Fun fact, in case you didn't know this, the very actually nobody, I've never told the story before. So I was doing this panel. It was called K-pop versus J-pop, and we've done this panel a lot. And mind you, when we did, I don't mean we as an A to J, because it was never an A to G panel. It was a panel that we did collaboratively with this other like K-pop centric outlet, and we did it at like a couple conventions a year. And this is like way back in the early days, and I remember being on that panel, and I didn't really know too much about the underground idol scene. Now, for those who don't know, Chica Idol means like underground idol. I didn't know too much about that term. Actually, I didn't know it at all. I'd heard it in passing. I never asked what it meant. So when we were talking about the K-pop versus J-pop thing, I was talking a lot about idols, and there was somebody else in the panel who was talking a lot more about like pop, like like pop music as opposed to like idols. So I was talking about idols, and some of the audience is like, "What are your views on Chica idols?" And I had no idea what the fuck Chica Idol meant. And they were clearly waiting for me for an answer. And everyone was looking at me. And I'm like, well, actually, I think Tiffany can explain it better than me. And for those who don't know, Tiffany's like our translator. Yeah, Tiffany's our translator. Like, she's Japanese. So she was not even on the panel. She's sitting in the audience, like, third row back, off to the side. Tiffany can explain it better than me. And she's like, why me? And I'm like, just answer the question. And I don't think I even told her, but I had no idea what Chica meant. And it was actually quite a bit later. It wasn't even like I learned after that fact, because Tiffany didn't answer. We kind of just argued back and forth and we moved on. But it was a bit after. I'm like, oh, you're right. That's what Chica. Yeah, of course. Oh, God, that was terrible. But yeah. It's funny because I mentioned the Bantaru thing, like the Poppin' Party, the Bang Dreams, and all that stuff. Obviously, that's way different than all titles, so I'm not going to go too far into that. But it does lead really fast to another point that Slamline Robot mentioned about how a lot of people, especially in the West, confuse like idol groups as bands.
Yeah.
That gets on my nerves a lot.
I think that happens though. Like, I feel like that's not just in the West. Like, I feel like sometimes like Passcode and Broken by the Scream sometimes get that treatment too.
Now, I might be wrong, but I don't think I am. Their bands aren't official, are they? They don't have like a steady band, do they? Neither of them. I mean, both of them. I should say.
I'm not sure about Passcode, but I think Broken by the Scream does.
Oh,
I'm not too sure though.
They have a steady band. But that's one thing if they did. But these terms rarely refer to the musician. They refer to the group. Now, I guess some people might argue we're getting semantics here, whether a band is a group of vocalists or not. But you can always tell, especially when we're going back to like the metal dads. You can always tell it's always usually like the metalheads who are using the term band and throwing the word band around. I'm like, oh, this discussion is not going to go well. Like, this is going to be one of those discussions. So yeah, they have bands, but they ain't permanent. Which is how I feel a lot of these groups are. Like, the Chroma has a band, and I think that their band is relatively permanent, but even theirs isn't like static. And of course, if you go to some shows, like not all their shows will have backing bands, and that's for a lot of groups in general, not just in the alt idol scene. But moving on, I want to talk a bit, and I kind of feel like we should have closed with this, not because I feel like we're jumping back to earlier shit. But I want to talk a bit about whack. Now, I know you're not a huge fan of whack, Shaun. Oh, I spelled EAC. Oh, W. Sorry, I can't find W on my keyboard.
I used to be more into whack of last year, but I don't know. I just kind of like stopped listening to him as much, aside from maybe Bish. But
See, I have such strong opinions on whack. I legitimately okay. Like there was a point when I felt that Watanabe, right? Yeah. Sorry, I can't remember his other Junosuke Watanabe. Yeah. Um, sorry, I don't have my notes up. I actually decided to wing it at the last minute. This podcast, I did write some notes, but I didn't use them. Um, I did. There were times when I felt like all of his shit was like kind of like kayfabe, like the wrestling shit, where it's always like tongue in cheek. He's just being the enemy, so that everybody can like cheer for the idols. But like this year, I felt like with his jump the shark moment with Biss with second Biss, like with like all that bullshit with just getting rid of everybody basically, or
yeah,
all,
that's just honestly, like I said, I like Bish, I like old Biss, but
I was
to be quite honest, I'm glad that a lot of the old like Biss members are doing their other things, like
so,
Tentenko's doing her solo stuff, and Megumi's just doing Mice and Book Girl. Are they even around still? I haven't heard anything
yeah, I
about
haven't
them.
been Mason Book Girl for a while either. I think they still are though. But yeah, it's funny because Slimeline Robot mentions they quit, which is funny because like
They did.
yeah, I was
Damn.
actually trying to read into it, and it was just so confusing because like I said, it made me like honestly the whole incident made me wonder, and I was only kind of like paying attention to it back then because I was kind of done with whack for a while. I was just like, for some reason, that whole holy shits thing where they were like eating shit, like something about that, like I don't get me wrong, I know it's there for like the shock value, whatever, but something about that, I was just like, this just feels like they're trying too hard, like they're being tryhards now. Like there's somebody from 4chan.
I actually like that. To be quite honest, that was good.
To be fair, a lot of other people did too. I'm not judging if you did or didn't, but that was my personal moment when I was all like, the same for me, bro. Like the SpongeBob meme, like it's like that's
yeah,
I'm gonna write.
I'm out.
Yeah, I'm gonna write that later when Rack releases a video where they're literally eating shit. Like I'm out. That was me. That was my I'm out. I'm gonna head out. That's what it is. I'm gonna head out. That was my I'm gonna head out moment because I was done. I was like, I'm done. That was like last year sometime, and then earlier this year, if I'm not mistaken, I think they're actually. Yeah, the song is fine, to be totally honest. I don't remember the song that well. All I remember is them fucking eating shit. But that was the part when and I remember like I showed that video on the podcast, and I remember like that was back in the day where we did live video reactions. For the record, in case you're wondering why we don't do those anymore, because all those videos would get claimed, and it was such a hassle. Because sometimes they get claimed in a way that we couldn't show them. Like I don't care if they're gonna steal my 60 cents or $1 for the podcast. I don't care about that. I care if it gets like blocked in like 5 countries or whatever the fuck. So we stopped doing that because of that. But we used to do live reactions back then, and I want to say it was actually Heidi or maybe it was Max. I don't know who we had on. We had one of the girls on, and they legitimately did not want to watch the video either because there was shit. I think they didn't watch it. They were just like, I'm not gonna watch this. And like, mind you, both of them aren't exactly like squeamish, and they're like Heidi does idol shit in Japan, and like Max does does equally crazy-ish things like in her own music and whatever. So it's like, what the fuck? And they didn't want to watch it. But I'm getting off topic here. But the jump the shark moment was this year. Basically, he tried that, or Wack tried that whole like splitting Biss into 2 groups for a while, like all of last year.
That did it for me.
Yeah, and part of me, I hated that, but there were some good songs. I actually was kind of getting into into Biss again for a minute there.
I like the music. What's it? The Biss part 2? Was it Biss 2 or something? They had the music video where one of them got hit by the car or the bus or whatever.
Yeah,
I forget. I remember that. That was the last time I remember even looking at Biss.
It's funny you say that because that was the last time I heard a Biss song, even to this day, for the record. That was a lot because I remember we covered that song. we didn't cover it, but we showed it off that song particularly in our all title panel this year. at Anime Los Angeles in January, and but I remember like I was still not on board with the whole voting thing, and that the members who get the least votes were like threatened to be kicked out, and that's how it all started. When some of the members who were like really low ranking were getting threatened to be kicked out, and then one of the girls just left, and I was like, oh, so wait, was that real? Because don't get me wrong, of course, Watanabe has gone through with some of his wacky threats like that before, but then it was like, oh, we're doing a training camp thing, and like we're getting rid of some of like the lesser performing people, and he got rid of like a couple, like he was gonna get rid of like 2 people, and then the next day, all of them left, all of them quit, and I'm like, dude, were you really treating them this badly? Because I was always under the assumption, and people were telling me I was wrong, and I guess maybe they were right. But I was always under the assumption that this was all like, like I said, like wrestling kayfabe, that kind of thing. Not
A gimmick.
yeah, obviously it's not wrestling, but I mean like, it's like it's not really real.
Fake.
Yeah, it's like obviously like this part of it, but like when they're off camera, they're not really sleeping in a tent alone. They're being picked up and driven to a hotel or something like that. But now I'm like, wait, was all this real? For the past 4 or 5 years of like, I'm like, is he just like a sadistic asshole? I'm just so surprised.
Yeah.
I'm still like, so the way. So sorry for not giving too much details about that. Like I don't have all my notes with the names and everything like that. But yeah, that was basically what happened. Like, there was a lot of threatening to get rid of members, and I guess over like bullshit like voting and through like the training camp thing, and then eventually the rest of the group was like, "Fuck it, we're out." And there were some really good members in there, in this new biz, and then like I think like within a week or like basically really fast, I don't remember the exact time frame. He's all like, "Oh, new biz! I'm starting a new biz," and I think he had like 4 or 5 members, and then one of them left like a couple weeks ago, and now they're doing another like audition, a new generation, so to speak. And I'm just like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? It's like it took so I don't know, maybe Biss has fans. By Biss I mean third Biss. Because I remember when second Biss came around, like I didn't go to that concert because it happened right when I was leaving Japan, but we sent someone to that concert because we were getting offered to like, oh, you want to cover it? And I was like, for sure, we'll cover it because that's crazy, it's amazing. And that was back when Pului was still in there as well, and and I remember like I was just so shocked, like this group was so new at that point, but these girls already had fans, like individual fans for individual girls, and like obviously it's the idol thing, but like it was the first time that I really experienced it firsthand, like people like latching onto a girl from the get-go, and it just threw me for a loop. And it took me. My point to bring this up is I'm not that kind of person, and it took me a while to grow up, to grow on some of the members, and eventually there was a bunch of members that I liked. Perry Uber was amazing. The fuck is that other girl? The girl with the makeup.
Oh, I was trying to think of her name earlier.
Yeah,
I was talking to my friend.
Anyway,
it starts with a K. I think.
Exactly. Sorry, I can't remember the names. Once again, sorry for my notes things. For the record, I want you to know that my name thing, I'm bad with names in general. In my life, if you ever hang out with me, like I'll call you a million names if I call you your real name. So it's just my thing. But anyway, so my point to bringing that up was it took me a while for these girls to grow on me, and now they're all gone. And I don't know if I was unique in that, but like I haven't heard too much about Third Biss. I haven't really kept up with like except that once again, like a friend of mine told me that one of the members left a couple weeks ago. But I wonder, is the fandom just grabbing onto these new girls and already splitting up the fandom or whatever? Not splitting up, but like sectioning off. Or is the fandom done with it too? Because I'm just so shocked by this whack shit. I'm like, is it? So it's all been real, and like people have told me that it's all like it really is real. Manuel, you don't know. It's like he's an asshole. He's just a sadistic asshole. I guess I was just wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, Kika, you're right, Kika.
Yeah, Kika front under something.
Fatale, Kika front, something like that. Yeah.
I was thinking Kikawa for some reason.
So was I'll be honest. This Kikawa too, from like back in the day, she was a soloist. She's also in like a few other Milky Way. But anyway, yeah, it's idol, bro. Most people pick their Oshis, and right away. I agree. Only reason I mentioned that at all is because I've seen it happen, but mind you, like I've never really been. That was the first time I went to Japan to do idol shit. So that's kind of funny I say that because it's pissed. But that was the first time I went. That was the first time I went to Japan to do idol shit, and so I got to see a lot of it, like in the homeland, so to speak. I kind of deal more in the microcosm here. Like, for those who don't know, AJ Connection is a lot of girls, and a lot of my idol fan friends are girls. Funny enough, so like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that that they're any less like fervorous as the guys, but they do it differently, and so it's totally different when you see like a WOTA scene, like a male WOTA scene, like the way they section off so quickly, because it happens the same way with girls, but it's more like, oh, I like her because she looks like she has like a fucking, like, I like her haircut.
It's funny you talk about that, because okay, so you're talking about the girls and how like they do that and stuff, because like, okay, so when Broken by the Scream came, this was I dragged my girlfriend along, and she knows nothing about this stuff, and the first thing she says is, oh, I like this girl because she's cute.
Yeah.
This wasn't just with Broken by the Scream. Like, they had a at-home cafe there too, and she thought they were AKB48.
Oh my god!
And she's like, I want to take a picture of her because she's so cute. And like, she was like immediately like a fan, like just because she was cute. Like, I feel like that happens not just with girls though. I feel like a lot of the guy fans are like that too.
I agree. That's what I say. It's not unique, but I feel like that's kind of almost like 100% the girl fan thing. And
yeah,
like, mind you, I'm dealing with a microcosm, but that's pretty much all I see. And even in the non-idol fans, they're like, "Oh, she's cute. I like her." Like, they'll latch on to somebody because of that. But it's funny you mentioned At Home. I forgot they were there. We're real big fans of theirs, and we've interviewed. He told me like 4 times, and we've met Mizukine and Chimu. So
Chimu,
they were there, yeah. Oh, I kind of wish I could have gone. I conflicted with another con I think I was at, but anyway, I just wanted to talk about that. And of course, Heidi, that girl that this, of course, Heidi, who we mentioned in the past before, she works for At Home Cafe as one of their maids. So yeah, so we're very, A to J is very experienced with At Home Cafe. Anyway. But so who am I not listening to? Oh, the Western whack fans are idiots. For the love of God, don't listen to them. Now, the last topic. That was basically all for whack, by the way. I think it's I find it ridiculous, and I'm just so surprised that apparently I wasn't being lied to. Hold on, Alt Idol. It's the last topic before we wrap this up. Well, our last big topic, then we'll just start closing it up. I'm not gonna lie, I thought because we were half winging it, we wouldn't fill like 90 minutes, and we're already at 90 minutes, and we still have a topic. So the alt idol fandom. This is a topic we also cover all the time whenever we have like an alt idol thing. Now, what I find funny is there was a point when I think that we were kind of considered. Not like, don't get me wrong, I'm not getting anywhere high and mighty, because I always considered us like the more casual of like the podcast, of the websites, of the so-ons, because
I agree.
Yeah, because like we cover so many things. Certain people definitely have like specialities, especially myself. It's like I'm a fan of so many things. I've interviewed countless groups that would be considered alt idol, and I've considered countless. I've personally interviewed countless groups that are definitely considered like mainstream idol, and I'm not. It's a mixed bag of which of those I'm even a fan of within that small circle. But there was a point when I felt like we were kind of considered like one of the people like who were covering alt idols a lot, because we were, even though like we were kind of the ones who are like, oh, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and I'm like. Part of that's true. It's like we're just discussing. We're not like super fans trying to be like, oh, this is the you try to
not a Wikipedia.
Yeah, like we're literally discussing. But my point to bring that up is back in those days there were a lot more people around, and I feel like the fandom is like definitely not died down, because I don't think it has. I don't think the number has has decreased one bit. If anything, it's definitely grown. But like,
Mhm.
I think there was a sense of unity that I don't see around anymore. Even if that unity was hatred towards us, it feels like the whole unity has died down. Like, what the fuck ever happened to the Alt Idol podcast? Like I talk about that all the time. Like, they're gone. It's like, what did I miss? It's like, so they're gone. Some of the other sites, they're still, most of the sites are still around, but like, it just like some of their, the way that their scene has changed. Like, I remember back in the day when we first got Homicidals on, like, it was like, oh my god, Homicidals, like Maniac, and he actually, there was a few people that we wanted to join us. I won't name names. There's few people that wanted to join us who ended up like not leaving us. They ended up like, oh, I think I'd rather work with Maniac instead, which is fine because we're all friends here. So like, whatever, peace. And there was a point, no joke. There was a point when we were trying to get Maniac to join us. Like, we were like, hey, write for us, and and so on. But now apparently Homicidals is not seen very well in some circles of the Alt-Title fandom. I found this out
Mhm.
last year. I don't know if you're a fan of I don't think you are, because I think I've seen some of your comments too.
I'm not.
Yeah, it's funny because because like I didn't know this. Like last year when we had Maniac
I
on.
like. Don't get me wrong. Like you said, I do. I have some friends that work for homicidals and stuff, and I'll read their articles when they put them out. Like if they're my friend, but other than that, I don't really care for them or idol as shit. To be quite honest.
No, I don't want to talk too much about Idol as Shit, because Idol as Shit is the only one, and that's the one that my Gary. That's the only one that him and it's funny because I actually don't know why we don't like each other. Like, don't get me wrong, I poke fun at him a lot, but like, he's the one who like gets really like assholey with me, and I'm like,
Yeah.
why? And like, it's funny because on this podcast it's just me and you, and like as far as normal hosts, it's just me. But we've done podcasts where it's like a full cast, where it's all like, it's me, Maniac, Konaro, me, Maniac, Rose, me, Maniac, Heidi, so on, Paper Maiden, Carrie, Tipu, whoever's on the podcast. But when at the end of the day, it's always like, God damn, Manuel. It's like, what the fuck? Like, you remember the old memes when it's like, damn it, Obama. Like, whenever something happened, like, you just blamed Obama like for no reason. That's the way I feel. It's like, what did I do? It's like, I'm just like, I'm just the one who talks sometimes, but I'm the one who said the thing that pissed you off. But anyway, I digress. That was my thing about Gary. Sorry, I digress. But jumping back to homicidals, I didn't know this until like last year when we had him on, that he is not very well liked. And like, I don't want to say that like everyone hates him, but a good chunk of the Western fandom doesn't like him, including like Idol is Shit, including I think yourself. Like, it's fine. Um, Especially I think a lot of that stems towards Maniac. To be fair, I don't think not so much homicidals in general, but a lot of that stems towards Maniac.
Mm.
And it's just so funny because I feel so bad. I'm like, I feel like some of our stigma or like has rubbed off on him, and I remember like circa around that time, I was like, I don't really want to cover all titles anymore because it's just a mess. And we never were, but this did start out as an idol podcast. If you ever watched the early episodes, it was an all idol podcast up until like episode like 40 something, and then we just slowly deviated away because it was like, dude, like we'd post episodes, and like, see, this one I think will be decently received because I feel like our views are a lot more like open. But like the second we get critical, unless we get like Iron Bunny fans, I don't know. But the second we get critical, I would see it in the dislike. The podcast would get like 14 dislikes to like 2, and I'm like, people like. I know people watch us. By the way, if you're watching us on YouTube, leave a like and comment, or leave whatever. But if you're gonna leave a dislike, leave a comment. Just tell us why, because I've always wondered that. I'm always like, if you watched a
Make fun of you.
yeah, like just do it. But I always found it funny. Like, I'm like, dude, we talked about Bis again, or we talked about Necronom Idol, and like we got 20 dislikes again. And it got so disheartening after a while. I'm like, let's just not do this anymore. Let me read some of the comments. Everyone just chills people they, yeah, exactly. Like I feel like a lot of the huge fandom groups, a lot of the huge like circles have all kind of broken up. Slimeline Robot mentions how there's a lot more like, he didn't say this word there, but but there's a lot like a more of a cliquish thing going on right now, where like
Yeah.
people are broken off into their own
Yeah.
cliques.
I see that. Yeah.
Probably 4chan.
I mean, when I first got into I didn't like associate myself with other fans and stuff until I started going to shows. When I first saw Necronomicon when they first did their concert here, their first one, that's when I started like, oh, there's a lot of people. That's when I realized, oh, there's a lot of people that like this stuff too, and I've met some really nice people in this circle, and I'm really grateful for them. But as it goes on, if any fandom, in any fandom, you're always going to get that like thing where it like starts to become like you get some assholes, and then you get some really nice people. Like I've met some extremely good friends, but like then again, you get these people that just kind of make it like I don't want to associate myself. Like, because like I used to be in some of these groups and shit on Facebook, but then I was like, I'd like talk to some of them and it'd just come off as a dick, or, I think they know, like they think I'm scum because I don't know as much, but so like that kind of turns me away. So it's like I don't want to associate myself with them, and I'll keep my friends that I find, and if I meet any other cool people, then it's good. But like, yeah,
it's funny you bring
there's like those cliques, like you said that.
It's funny you bring that up specifically because like part of the problem I always felt was there was a big gatekeeping mind you, I don't think this is there anymore because it's broken up a bit, but there was a huge gatekeeping aspect back in the day. That I always felt was so hard to get into some of the groups. It's like, I mean, as in like the fan groups, not the groups themselves, but it's like, hey, God forbid if that still happened. Like, hey, I just heard Iron Bunny. Can you tell me more about other groups like them? They probably get attacked, probably rightfully so. But anyway, but like there were times when I would ask, like, oh, it's like we're gonna talk about so and so next week. Can somebody tell us like about like some of their background? They'd be like, fucking noob. So get the fuck out of here. Why are you gonna talk about them if you don't know about them?
I had this one thing happen. I was taught, this was about a year and a half ago or something. I don't remember who it was, but I was talking to someone, and I was like, it was like around the time when Necronomicon was finally like coming to America and stuff. And like I was like talking, I don't know what brought up the conversation, but some guy got like kind of angry at me just because I didn't know the fucking members' colors. Like I was like, okay.
To be fair, and it's funny specifically to be totally fair, I want to preface this by that, like you said this already earlier too. There are like going to be assholes in any fandom or anything, not even any group, not even fandom. Because just the other week I was at Anime California at the convention in Burbank, and like we were listening to like a fucking like Macross song, like Watakure, like the pop group in the anime. And there was a point when we listened to one of the songs, and one of my friends was all like, "You don't even know so and so's color," and I was like, I just like this song.
I didn't know it was important.
Yeah, like
I didn't know I couldn't like the music if I know exactly. Other colors. Heaven forbid.
So it's just so funny you bring that up because, and he was dead serious. Like he was so mad at me. He was talking to. He wasn't like he didn't ruin the mood of the whole day of the party or whatever the fuck. But he was talking some shit. Like I didn't know it. I'm like, dude, calm down. It's just sing the song. We're all having fun here. Don't be that person. But there's some amazing people in the scene. I mentioned already, like we've had I like Maniac, but we've also had Carrie, we've had Pippa Maiden, we've had Terry from the All Title podcast on as well. We tried to have John from Straight from Japan, and I think it just never worked out because like he could only do it like on weekends, and we weren't doing weekends back then, and now I probably reach out to him again. Maybe his schedule has just changed. But we've had a lot of people on the scene in general. We've had you, and there's a lot of good people in general. And even though, and I mentioned this before, like I'm not like on the podcast, or I mentioned this in life, and you go to the AJ page. At the end of the day, like I think every person within AJ, there's been like one or two that we've legit recruited from an application, like that we didn't know them at all before. But all of us have kind of known each other because we're all like fans of the same shit.
Mhm.
So, and there's a lot of
I like that aspect.
Yeah,
I like that aspect that you could meet all these people just through this. Like, I really like that. Like, but unfortunately, there's some assholes that you meet too.
yeah. And I'll be honest too. Like we've recruited some people who we didn't realize were going to turn into assholes, or they were. We're like, oh, so and so likes us. You join us, and it's like, oh, god damn it, we invited in the enemy. But no, like people like Angie and Tiffany are huge fans of like all title groups, and like they've been part of us for a while, and so on. And and Konaro's a big fan of some of these groups as well. I don't know. There's not all of them are like bad people.
It's like you say something about a group or something, and then like you get these assholes that like flip out and stuff like that.
Anyway, my point to bringing all this up is I wanted to mention that even though there is still the asshole syndrome, so to speak, I don't want to keep repeating ourselves. I think we kind of are, but I do feel that the fandom is a lot better now. It's a lot broken up, but I definitely do think it's increased. It's a lot better now. There's not this whole like gatekeeping aspect, and I think there might still be, but I think part of the problem, if you want to gatekeep, there's so many like different avenues of the fandom now. If you gatekeep here, then it's like, okay, I'm gonna head out. I'm gonna go to the other, I'm gonna head to like the other more friendly group that'll be more accepting and just like, hey, it's a new fan. So yeah, I've always I don't know. I just I think it's better, is what I'm getting at. And I've always felt like, especially when you get to like more of the indie, the smaller groups, obviously this does breed a lot of that like gatekeeping aspect. But I do feel like when you get to the smaller groups that aren't the Babymetals, that aren't the Morning Musumes, that aren't the AKB48s, like if you get to the Hanako-san fandom, you go to like the Necron Idol fandom, it's a lot more, bit more like, hey, we're part of this small club that like let's all be buddies. Of course, there's not everyone to be like that, but I feel there's a lot more of that. Though I don't know. That's that.
Yeah.
Let me see. This helps a lot of people with some crazy misconceptions these days, and end up spreading misinformation and won't take advice. Now, there's a lot of those. Like I mentioned, I'm pretty sure if that guy was not in Taiwan and he was in the U.S., that one article guy I mentioned way back like an hour ago, I'm pretty sure he would have joined like an all-title group on Facebook and then like tried to like Kawaii metal. Then maybe he did. Got chased away, and then he just came to me. But and I always wondered why he came to me. It's like, then again, like it was a recommendation, but I'm like, did he go to others first? I never asked. Anyway, once again, that article will be in the description. But I think that's about it. I think we're gonna wrap it up. I'm actually had a lot of fun talking alt idols. We should do this again. I've talked to other people at Homicidals about being on, and I've talked to other people from other outlets about being on. I want Derek on. He's the guy whose name I forgot.
Derek would be cool.
Derek apparently was too busy to do this like at all. I tried to schedule around him a bit. He's doing that movie.
What about Damon from Homicidals?
Oh, he's one of the ones I asked. He's like one of the ones I asked, and I think he was busy this week or something like that. But spread the good word of Kawaii metal. No, but anyway, but I would love to have Derek on again, because Derek is a good example of somebody. And I don't think, and if you go back to that podcast, because we got a lot of flack for this, if you go back to that podcast, I didn't have a lot of bad things to say about him, nor did everyone else have a lot of bad things to say about him. We were at the time.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah, we were at the time criticizing the way we felt the event was being run.
Yeah.
I won't go too much detail, I remember. But my point to bringing that up, and I don't want to go too far into that because that was a weird negative thing, and we lost fans. Like people in the comments on YouTube were like, "That's it, I'm done with you guys. You guys are too negative." And it was like, dude, you've been watching this for years, and now you're done because of that. It's like we actually been far more negative about other shit. But anyway, but obviously, in case you still watch us or follow us, like I had Derek on with Maniac. It was me, him, and Maniac last year. That was actually when I realized that Maniac wasn't that liked, because there were some comments like in the share when I was like, oh, we're doing it with both of them. There were some comments like, oh, I love Derek but not Maniac, stuff like that. And I was seeing a lot of that going on. But yeah, I've grown to like Derek. There's still some things he does, but that's people. There's still some things he does I don't agree with. but that just business things. That's just people. But
No one's perfect.
exactly, and like it might just be a point of
I
view.
really appreciate him. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's great. I would love to have him on. I told him too, like, dude, and especially when his movie's done, because he's like mad filming that. I want to talk. I want to have him on and talk to him about that. But
that'd be cool.
Anyway, so on that note, when we wrap this up, we're definitely gonna do this again. Hopefully have Shaun back. I say this about everyone, but if you ever watch our podcast, we very rarely have two guests like ever back, unless they're like really good friends of ours. So hopefully we'll be on again.
I'll say it now.
Yes.
I'm okay to do the Japanese metal one.
Oh yeah, that brings it up. If you like this topic, next week, we're doing a podcast on Japanese metal, and that's gonna be a lot of fun. We're kind of gonna it'll kind of almost be like a sort of a history lesson and a lot of other shit. We're talking about our favorite bands, we're gonna go over a bit because we do a panel on that, and I'm gonna have a friend of mine named Warren on, and he's really really knowledgeable, and we actually co-wrote a panel together called Thunder in the East, Japanese metal in the 80s. We've done it twice. It's only been filmed once. I'm gonna try to put it on YouTube soon. But if you're a fan of Japanese metal, tune in next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Or if you're not a fan of Japanese metal but want to know more about it, then definitely tune in. We're going to talk about a lot of groups. That one actually, I've already started writing notes for it. I'll let you know, Shaun, later on. I've already started writing notes for that like in advance. Part of the reason this podcast was scheduled weird was because I had gotten our dates confused. Not with you, but internally, and I had thought that that metal one was this week and that you were next week.
Yeah, I saw you talking to Maru about that.
And she got mad. That's why she's not on. But it's fine. we did fine. We did fine without her. No girls allowed. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know. It's my first time, so I'm like really like shy, I guess. I don't know what to do.
Like any other first time host, I think you definitely got better as time went on, and especially once you got earphones. But yeah, you contributed a lot, but we'll talk about that later. On that note, next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard, twitch.tv/ADJ Connections. Shout out to our current patrons, Ed and Kenneth. If you want to join us on Patreon, patreon.com/ADJ Connections. As little as $1 a month, you can support us if you like what we do. If not, then just watch our shit, share our shit. That's honestly awesome. If you want to support us, go to patreon.com/ADJ Connections. Early access to interviews. There's a lot of video only Patreon only video versions that are there. Like our interview with Kaho Shibuya, the second one, the video version is only on Patreon because the sound's a little wonky. I don't want to release that publicly. It's just not up to quality. But it's for patrons there. And you also get early access. We interviewed Anjurumu. They're like a really huge pop group in Mexico, like yesterday or a couple days ago, and we're working on that. Once that gets approved, it'll be on for Patreons early. So that's that. Thank you all for joining us. Next week's J Metal. Thank you, Shaun, for joining us. Thank you, Slimeline Robot, for being in the chat. You really got my mind going when I couldn't think of some topics there. And if you're on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and all that good stuff. And thank you all for joining us. Good night.
Bye.